Catching that.
Those days.
I mean, it's not their summer, so it's starting to get closer now.
And then let's just make a quick announcement.
February 1.
Please be seated. Good morning. This is the time set for sentencing in CR 2021-001704, CR 2022-001242, State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. Is the state ready to proceed?
Trina Kay on behalf of the state. State is ready to proceed.
Is the defendant ready to proceed?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Daybell, it's the judgment of the court that in CR 2021-001704, pursuant to a unanimous jury verdict of guilt, that you are guilty of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It's a class 1 felony committed in violation of Arizona revised statutes on July 11 of 2019. As to this count, the court also finds that pursuant to your stipulation and agreement on the record following the verdict of guilt, that this is a dangerous offense. The offense caused physical, emotional, or financial harm to the victim, or if the victim died as a result of the conduct that you engaged in, it caused emotional or financial harm to the victim's immediate family. The offense also involved the presence of an accomplice. It is also the judgment of the court in CR 2022-001242, pursuant to a unanimous jury verdict of guilt, that you are guilty of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. It's a class 1 felony committed in violation of Arizona revised statutes on October 2nd of 2019. As to this count, the court also finds that pursuant to the stipulation and agreement that you made on the record following the verdict of guilt, that this is a dangerous offense and the offense involved the presence of an accomplice. It's ordered entering judgment of guilt for each count in each case. Accordingly, the court will make additional findings regarding additional aggravating factors later in these proceedings. I've reviewed the pre-sentence report as well as the state's sentencing memorandum. Is the state ready to present its side?
Yes, Your Honor. First, we would like to have some of the next of kin and victims speak, starting with the 2021 matter. We would like to first call a couple of the people who are speaking virtually. Larry Woodcock should be on, no? All right. While we wait to get him, is Bobby Vallow on? All right. We're also saying that's not on. Susan Vallow? Have we allowed people in? Yeah, we did send.
I just spoke with them. They're hopping on now.
Oh,
All right.
they're hopping on
Colby
right now.
Ryan, I think, is the only one.
All right. Well, with that, Your Honor, so we'll start with the virtual. So since Colby is on right now, if we could have Colby Ryan speak first.
All right. Mr. Ryan, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, sir.
All right. My name is Colby Ryan. I'm the son of Charles Vallow, the brother of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. I'm here to tell you what I've lost. Not only are my father, sister, and brother gone, but so is my mother. Starting 6 years ago, the horror began. During the middle of my workday, I was alerted that my father had passed away from a heart attack. I spent the whole day at work in shock. I spoke to my mother and felt that I needed to come and stop by after my shift. After a long conversation, she hesitantly agreed. When I arrived at her house, I found out that what she had told me previously about the heart attack was not the case. My father had been shot and killed in what was labeled self-defense. I saw how my sister fell into my stomach with her emotions and sobbed. My brother JJ was asleep. Afterwards, I came home to my wife, and our young baby sat on the floor and completely broke down. My life would never be the same. My sister was caught up in the middle of this hell. She was only 16 years old. My little brother was barely 7. Within a few weeks, life continued to move quickly. My little brother, in just one day, had his father ripped away from him, and so did my sister. No matter how tough Tylee tried to be, she was scared, and I know she was scarred. She held a burden that no teenager should ever have to endure. My father, Charles Vallow, cared for his family. He took care of our family, and he made sure we had a good life. He was a very generous man, and would give you the shirt off of his back. Here's the reality. In January 2019, I was told by my mother, Lori Vallow, that my father had been unfaithful to her for years. I was distraught by this news, and Lori's actions sold the story. I naively believed her and thought that my father betrayed my family. Little did I know it was my mother having the affair all along. She accused others of what she was doing herself. I regretfully decided to stop speaking to my father. On July 11th, 2019, I would be flooded by the reality that my choice not to speak to him would be a lifelong sorrow. What I lost on July 11, 2019 was a father who was trying to help me in life, and a man who wanted to see his grandchild, and someone who wanted to give guidance and love. I lost a father. This affected me in more ways than anyone could ever know. I have to live with the regret of not speaking to him before he was murdered in cold blood. This did not only affect me. My little brother, JJ Vallow, was only 7 years old, and he had autism and had his life picked apart and never explained. One day he saw his father coming to him to pick him up at the house, and then never saw him again. My sister Tylee carried too much responsibility and was put in positions no child should ever have to be in. Part of that responsibility was being told to retrieve Lori's purse inside the house, possibly witnessing her father's body. Here's the reality. Neither Tylee nor JJ had time to even process or grieve. My mother, Lori Vallow, moved them out of state, and only a couple of weeks later, little did we know that my little sister, Tylee, only had 60 days before she would meet the same fate. My little sister must have been so scared, confused, anxious, and broken, and angry, and every emotion you could think of. My little brother, JJ, would only have 74 days before he met the same fate. He must have been confused, worried, sad, and frustrated without the ability to fully comprehend his feelings. I know I'm here to tell you the effect that this has had on me. In simple terms, each one of my family members was taken from us all in one swoop. My father was gone in an instant, and later my sister and brother disappeared until they were later found in Lori Vallow's new husband's backyard. This has affected me personally. I had to do something I've never done, and that was fight to stay alive after the pain. There are no words for what I've experienced, and I had to choose to fight and to stay alive for my children and for my wife. Now I'd like to address Lori Vallow. She claims to be Jesus's favorite. She claims to lead a spiritual life, and she claims that she loves everybody, and she also claims to have seen Jesus and visited with him. When did Jesus allow us to commit adultery? When did Jesus change the commandment of thou shalt not kill? When did Jesus allow us to steal money from our dead children? When did Jesus tell us to lie our way through life? It must be a very sad life to smile your way through all the pain you've caused. Rather than being able to acknowledge the pain that she has caused, she would rather say that Charles, Tylee, and JJ's death were a family tragedy and not her evil doing. And I will say this, if you want to see darkness, look at the murdering cult that claims God has commissioned their mission to kill my family and others. Quite frankly, I believe that Lori Vallow herself is the family tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. I believe Larry is now online. We
Larry
can have him
Wood-
speak next.
Larry Woodcock, if you'd like to unmute, go ahead, sir. What would you like to tell me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, sir, and thank the court for allowing me to be present. I truly wish I was there to look the murderers in the eyes. I'm unable to. I will say this. Murderers, you're nothing. You're a murderer. You're a narcissist, psychopath, delusional murderer. I can't tell you the harm that you have caused to our family, but I will tell you this. I know where you're going to be till you die. You're going to be in an 8x6 cell. You're going to have a steel cot. You're going to have a 12x8 desk and a stainless steel toilet. You will have 23 hours a day in there. I hope you spend the rest of your life 23 hours a day regretting your choices, because that's all it was, murderers. It was your choices. You made them. You and your husband, if that's what you want to call him. For what? You murdered Charles, the best thing that was ever in your life, for your delusional, narcissistic way. I will never speak your name again, murderers. You will never get anything out of me again in your life. You are nothing. You are nothing. You killed Tylee. Did you enjoy it? Look at me, Lori. Did you enjoy it? Did you dance around the fire like you sent the videos to Chad of you dancing around in your room for him? Did you enjoy it? And then the most precious thing, a 7-year-old autistic, unbelievably God's present to Kay and I, to Todd. Look at Todd. Turn around and look at him, Lori, because that's the last time you're ever going to hear my name out of your mouth. Look at Todd. Have you said you're sorry? You wrapped JJ's hands in tape. You wrapped his arms in tape. You covered his eyes. And you buried him in 8 inches of ground. Murderous! May God have mercy on your soul, because that's the only thing in life. And don't count on God where you're going. You're nothing, murderous. I can't stand you. I always said, from out of some place you never saw came a sound you never heard. Well, I will not say that anymore. I want you to see and hear everything that's going to happen in your life. I want you to live it 23 hours a day. I despise you. You murdered JJ. You murdered Tammy. I'll always believe you murdered Alex. You're a murderer mistress, murderer. You're worthless. I can't believe 6.5 years of putting up with you. You are not worth it. The 4 murders that you're accused of are only ones that they can prove. Lori, you tried to kill me. I left your house in Hawaii. You tried to kill me going back home. But guess what? I beat you. I'm able to sit here and laugh at you and watch you go to prison. There's others you tried to kill. God bless JJ. God bless Tylee. And most of all, God bless our family. Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to speak my final piece to her.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woodcock.
Your Honor, Susan will be up next.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Susan, one of Charles's older sisters. I'm here to share the emotional impact of Charles's tragic senseless death for me. Charles and I had just started renewing our relationship with each other. One day in 2019 at Kay's house, Charles said to me, "Come see, sis." So I went to see what he wanted. He said, "I'm going to give you a car." And I just about passed out. I told him, I said, "I love you, Charles." He said, "I love you too, sis." And we hugged. And these were the last words we ever spoke to each other. Needless to say, because of your selfish, deliberate, and horrifying actions, this never happened. My brother's love, kindness, and generous nature knew no bounds. He wore his heart on his sleeve. You took all that away from us. July 12, 2019 changed my life forever. It still hurts to reflect on the day I was told my brother had been taken from the world the day before. You didn't even have the decency to bother with letting our family know of Charles's death until the day after by means of a vague text from one of Charles's sons. My brother's death was a deliberate act of evil and self-seeking financial gain. Your greed has caused so much pain to this day. How could you do such an evil and intentional harm and take my brother's life for money, lust, and power? The pain you caused in having to relive this nightmare, all because you didn't want Charles anymore. He didn't die from cancer or an accident. He was young and had a beautiful life left to live. You took that away. You planned and calculated his death. There isn't a day that goes by I haven't thought of this tragedy which you caused. I will never have another birthday, holiday, or other celebrations in life with my brother. Charles was victimized at the hands of you, Lori, and your accomplices. To do this to Charles, to receive money is sickening. I am disgusted and truly appalled by your evil, selfish, and reprehensible actions. You will miss out on wearing nice clothes, driving what was once your Range Rover, thick, juicy steaks, barbecues, and no more quiet, no more freedom, only rules. I have forgiven you, Lori. When Jesus calls me home, I don't want any of this on my soul. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
I'm not sure that Bobby's been able to get on, Your Honor, so I believe next Todd Trahan will be speaking.
Sir, you want to come up to this podium right here?
No, never mind, there's one. Oh, never mind, he's gone.
You're Todd Trahan,
Yes, sir.
and what would you like to tell me, sir?
I'm asked to address Lori, if
All
I
right.
can.
Go ahead.
Lori, Uncle Charles was a man of God, love. He knew God because he loved everybody around him. I trusted y'all with my family, the only son I had, because I couldn't give him the life that y'all could give him. I gave him up for y'all to raise him. I deal with the regret. I've dealt with I've dealt with the torment of making that choice. I'm here today to forgive you. I know what it's like to be in prison. I was in prison when y'all got the rights to my son. I know what it's like. Once you get done with this court and you go sit in that cell, you got to relive everything that you did. I hope for you that you understand the truth of what God did on the cross, because God died not only for me, he died for the unlovable. People that the world thinks shouldn't, they judge. I hope you understand the truth before you die. You still have a chance. You don't have to live evil the rest of your life. You can turn from that. You ask God to come into your life and show you his love, and it'll transform you. I want to thank the court for letting me get up here and say these things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next should be Kresha Trahan.
Kresha,
Yes.
what would you like to say?
All right, let's see. My name is Kresha Trahan, and I stand before this court today as a voice for the shattered remains of my family, a family that has been ruthlessly decimated. Not only were lives stolen, but also our peace, our trust, and the very fabric of what a family should be. Charles, my uncle, and my mother Kay's beloved brother, was so much more than just a relative. He was a cornerstone of our family. I remember his infectious laugh, his corny jokes, his unwavering optimism, and his genuine care for everyone around him. He had a way of making everyone feel seen and valued. I gotta catch my breath. One of my fondest memories is how he was always there for my mother, his sister, Kay. Their bond was incredibly strong, and they supported each other through everything. He was the kind of man who would drop anything to help someone in need. The news of his death in July 2019 shattered me, and it sent shockwaves through our entire family. It was sudden and incomprehensible. My mother, Kay Vallow Woodcock, his sister, was also devastated. The pain of losing her brother was immense, and it was a wound that has never fully healed. it's hard to see your own mother go through these kind of things because it's something you can't fix. For me, it felt like a light had gone out in the world. We relied on his steady presence and his ability to bring people together. The initial grief was compounded by the horrific circumstances surrounding his death. To learn that his own wife was involved in his demise was a betrayal of the deepest kind. It added a layer of anger and disbelief to our sorrow. The questions of why and how haunted us, turning our grief into a constant ache of injustice. We now know the chilling extent of the premeditation. Records on Chad Daybell's Gmail account show searches for Ned Snyder, 1996, Death, Louisiana, and bodies possessed after original occupant dies, as early as January 28, 2019. This was before Charles was ever referred to as Ned Snyder. This revealed a calculated descent into her delusion. Charles was fighting for his life and for his children's future long before his death. On February 20th, 2019, Charles called Banner Life to change his beneficiary to my mother, Kay, specifically for his special needs son, and to place a PIN code on his account. He was clearly concerned about someone accessing his account. Just 6 days later, on February 26, 2019, he called again to finalize the change, but couldn't provide a password he had never set. That's how distraught he was. He had never set the password. I mean, he had set the password and forgot that he had set the password. Growing angry as he suspected fraudulent access. From March 19th to March 21st, 2019, even while Charles was alive and still married, his wife and Chad Daybell traveled from Idaho to Arizona together, as evidenced by tickets in her iCloud account. On March 21st, 2019, she was back at the Four Points Sheraton in Mesa using their Wi-Fi, all while plotting and believing in twisted narratives. Her so-called spiritual beliefs were nothing more than a thinly veiled excuse for murder, justification for murder. The names used for Charles, Ned Schneider, Iplos, Heplos, we don't know, were born from Chad Daybell's internet searches. Zalema's cellular phone records paint a disturbing picture of the generated belief system, with discussions about Chad's so-called gifts to cast out dark spirits, remove swords, and place spiritual armor. This was all a grotesque fabrication designed to justify heinous crimes. There was talk of healing quicker and reversing age, for Christ's sake. Oh, wow. While actively plotting the deaths of innocent people that trusted her. Perhaps the most heartbreaking detail is the decision Charles made to try and make his marriage work. He truly believed in reconciliation, and he really loved Lori, his wife. He took his wife back into his life, and in a text to his attorney, Taylor, he wrote, quote, "What can I say, Taylor? Love always wins," unquote. These were the words of a man clinging to hope, a hope that ultimately led him to his death. Tylee, my step-cousin, was a bright and blossoming young woman full of life and potential. Even though our family connection was through marriage, she was our family connection. She was always considered one of us. I remember her vibrant energy and her protective nature towards JJ. It reminds me of how I am with my brother Todd. She had dreams of traveling the world and truly living life. She possessed a unique spirit and a kindness that radiated from her. When Tylee disappeared, the initial worry quickly turned into agonizing fear. We desperately hoped for her safe return, clinging to any shred of possibility. The eventual news of her murder was soul-crushing, a stark and brutal end to a life that had barely begun. The pain of knowing her potential was extinguished so violently, it's unbearable. We mourn the experiences she will never have, the milestones she will never reach, and the person she would have become. The world is undeniably darker without Tylee's light. And then JJ, my nephew, my only nephew, was a sweet and innocent little boy who brought immeasurable joy to our family. Joshua Jackson Vallow was born Canaan Todd Trahan. He was born to my brother Todd Trahan and his longtime girlfriend Mandy Leger in Lake Charles, Louisiana on May 25th, 2012. He was 10 weeks premature and he had drugs in his system. I remember pacing the halls of the labor and delivery floor to see what his prognosis was. And I remember praying and reaching out to friends on social media to ask them to pray too. I remember him having tubes and wires coming out of his tiny little body to help him reach stable balance. My nephew smashed my own doubts and fought so hard to come into this world. And it's no surprise to me to learn how he fought for his life to stay in this world. When his mother, his uncle, and his mother's side piece preyed on a 7-year-old autistic boy and snuffed him out. Think about that. Later burying him in a shallow grave in the backyard of her future husband's property. As an autistic child, he had unique challenges, but also unique gifts. His infectious giggle, his love for dinosaurs and planes, and his need for a routine or memories we will forever cherish. I saw a video where he would line up his plushy toys and he would play the drums for his audience. It was so cute. Okay, sorry. My mouth is so dry. I'll never, oh, wait. Or how he sang on my parents' 56-passenger bus and then was joined by his Papa Larry to sing to one another. I'm also blessed to have captured this interaction on film that day. I never knew it would be played by news outlets all over the world when he and his sister Tylee had gone missing. He was a vulnerable and trusting child who relied on the adults in his life for love and protection. The betrayal of trust in his adoption and subsequent murder is a profound and lasting wound. She adopted him to get him out of a bad situation just to murder him? Lori Noreen Cox was an unloved daughter. She didn't even get her own name. She was never allowed to be herself, an individual with her own identity and her own life. She was always told she was someone else, living someone else's life. Her mother, in her grief over losing her infant daughter, convinced herself that Lolly's spirit came back to her in a new body. She convinced herself that she never lost Lolly, but that Lolly was so special she was allowed to come back to Earth again. And then she was convinced that she was Lolly. But the reality is that Lolly was lost. The hard truth is that sometimes infants die, and there's no reasoning and no explanation that makes it feel better. Sometimes babies just die. But her mother couldn't sit with that. She couldn't accept that, and so instead she taught her that she was Laura Lee. She taught her that Laura Lee must have had such a special mission that her spirit got to come back in her body. She was taught that she didn't matter. She was taught that she didn't deserve to have her own name, her own life, her own identity. She was devoured. And then to make matters worse, she was violated. I don't know when or how or by whom exactly, but she knows. She knows what happened. She knows who did it to her. She may pretend that it never happened, but the memory of it lives in her cells, and she can't ignore because those feelings come for her, and they find her in the quiet moments she wishes would go away. I know what it, okay, sorry. I'm gonna skip. That was, I'm crediting Megan for that. Here's the final plea for justice. The actions of the defendant have systematically dismantled families, leaving behind a trail of unimaginable grief and trauma. My family, especially my mother and my brother, have endured unspeakable pain because of these actions. We lost a brother, a son, and a nephew. And the lingering fear and sorrow inflicted are a constant heavy burden. I implore this court to impose the maximum sentence possible. The defendant deserves to spend the rest of her life incarcerated, held accountable for every life stolen, every heart broken, and every family destroyed. Her calculated cruelty has earned her nothing less than the hardest consequences. Let justice finally be served for Charles, Tylee, and JJ, and I can't forget Tammy. My uncle Charles's last words to his attorney about taking his wife back were, "What can I say, Taylor? Love always wins." In his memory and for the countless lives impacted by these horrific crimes, I hope that justice for once truly wins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Kay Woodcock.
Go ahead and go up to the podium.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking of
Can I sit up there? Gotta be here? Okay. All right, Charles. Okay. I'll figure it out. What I need to do. Shut up. It's the one in JJ. Just be on this one.
Is this the statement? Is this her statement?
This is whose?
This is yours.
Never heard. Okay, anyway, it's okay.
Okay.
Hey, I'll need a water if you can have it. Your Honor, I stand before you today to honor Charles, my big brother. This courtroom is where Charles finally receives the justice he fought for and never saw in life. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Charles was more than my brother. He was the backbone of our family. He was steady, loyal, and endlessly generous. He was the kind of man who showed up for everyone without ever asking for anything in return. When you walked into the room with Charles, you felt safe, you felt valued, and that's what makes this all so unbearable, because the very person who should have cherished him the most, his own wife, betrayed him in the cruelest, most calculated way imaginable. Charles was a protector by nature, the man who would give you the shirt off his back and then ask what else he could do to help. He loved fiercely, laughed easily, and built his life around the simple but powerful values of family, faith, and hard work. It feels right that this trial comes after those for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, because he was a true Southern gentleman. I know he would have told us to take care of them first. Lori. First, let me say this. Charles is not your husband. I can't do that.
You have to address the court.
Okay. Sorry. Charles is not your husband. Your disgusting co-monster, Chad, is. The Miss Texas pageant, Wheel of Fortune, Extra on Modern Family, July 31st, 2023. What do they all have in common? They're all days that failed to make you famous or idolized. Infamous? Yes, but never famous, never idolized. You spent your entire life chasing cameras, applause, and validation like oxygen, but here you are, exposed, convicted, stripped of the lies you wrapped yourself in. All your interviews, all your attempts to manipulate, triangulate, and control the narrative even the one released just last night, have failed. The world sees what I saw in 2019 when you abandoned Charles, Colby, Tylee, and JJ to chase that grotesque shadow of a man, Chad Daybell. You call yourself a mother, a wife, a woman of God. You are none of these things. You are a liar, a fraud, and a murderer. Did you think you could charm your way out of this? Do you believe people can't see through the lies? Do you honestly think that you are smarter, holier, or more special than everyone else? You are not. You are an ordinary, plain, run-of-the-mill, middle-aged woman. You keep saying to anyone who will listen that no one understands because they weren't there. So tell me, Lori, what don't we understand? Was it you who shot Charles? Is that why you kept asking during the trial about testing your hands for gunshot residue? Was that your grotesque way of gloating? You murdered Charles. You confessed to the conspiracy. Do you think we all missed that? You took his phone and played a childish game of keep away and then tried to sell the world that this was a good reason for Alex or you to shoot him. And every single one of us sitting in this courtroom saw right through it. That day started a domino effect, except you tipped the first domino and you kept those dominoes falling until everyone was dead. Charles, Tylee, JJ, Tammy, and the wake of devastation you left for Colby, for our entire families, and for an entire community who watched your evil unfold. You asked me during the trial where I was when Charles was murdered. You asked almost every witness if they were there, or if they saw with their eyes or heard with their ears you and Alex conspiring to murder my brother. No, we weren't, but you're right. As much as I hate to utter those words, and if you are to be believed, neither were you. How dare you desecrate the memory of Charles and your children the way you did their bodies? How dare you blame them for your crimes? We all know what happened, Lori. There is no denying it. We've sat in courtrooms, seen the evidence, seen the wreckage you caused. We have listened to the truth tellers. Nothing is taken out of context. Your land of make-believe is just transparent. The facts and the science don't play games. They tell the truth, how many times Charles was shot, at what angles, and how long he'd been dead before 911 was called. The 47 minutes. Because you were busy trying to manufacture an alibi. Science doesn't lie, you do. Detectives, prosecutors, jurors, advocates, the men and women who had to bear witness to this horror, please stand. Chuck Considas, Eric Wheeler, Ron Ball, Ray Hermosillo. They are from Rexburg, Idaho, and they were key in bringing justice to you. Thank you, guys. These individuals bear the weight of directly confronting your actions. They took that burden home to their spouses, children, and sleepless nights. They endured tragedy. You didn't just take our loved ones. You sparked a tragedy that now affects countless families. They understand, they were there, and they worked tirelessly to bring you to justice. Chandler PD never believed your bullshit. They didn't charge you immediately because they were busy untangling your web of deception. So you can continue making claims that no one understands because we weren't there. But make no mistake, we stand perfectly. We understand premeditation. We understand conspiracy. We understand fraud, insurance policies, and false alibis. We understand how long bodies lay in the ground while you danced, vacationed, and manipulated for attention. We understand the cost, emotional, financial, spiritual, that all of us have paid to clean up the wreckage of your delusion. Therapy, lost work, trauma, panic attacks, courtrooms and funerals, ashes and empty chairs. You are so selfish, so pathologically self-centered that you can't even see the shockwaves you created in every life around you. Webster's dictionary defines tragedy as a disastrous event. What happened to my family is precisely that, a series of disastrous events, each one engineered by you. You and Chad built a religion of narcissism, two people drunk on the fantasy of being special, chosen, above the law, above humanity itself. You labeled people as dark to justify murder. You wrapped evil in scripture and called it faith. You and Chad murdered your children and spouses and then hid behind a veil of lies. You are not exalted. You are not translated. You are a manipulator, a parasite, and a coward. You have no remorse. Your deflection is disgusting. Your interviews are manipulative. Your faith is counterfeit. You still talk as if you're somehow misunderstood. No, wrong. You're fully understood. We see who you are, a manipulator, a liar, and a destroyer. And the worst thing is, Charles loved you. He protected you, and you repaid him with betrayal and bullets. You left him dead on the floor and then went shopping for flip-flops and a new life with your apocalyptic con man. You tried to erase him, stealing his phone, twisting the narrative, and lying to anyone who would listen. But the truth doesn't lie, Lori, and now the truth has destroyed you. Lori, you have noticed this courtroom is full. It's not because people admire you. It's not because they see instrument in God's hands. It's because you're a sideshow freak, a murderous carnival act. People come to gawk at the monster who thinks she's divine. They don't come to honor you. They come to witness the wreckage of your delusion and to see justice crush it. You've always wanted an audience, but this audience isn't here to adore you. They are here to watch you fall, to watch you stripped of the spotlight you crave, to see your false crown ripped away. You are not a goddess. You are not chosen. You are not powerful. You just thought you could play God and win. The only legacy you leave is this: you will be remembered not as an instrument of God, but as a pitiful, cautionary tale of evil and narcissism. Your life will end behind concrete and steel while the world outside remembers JJ's smile, Tylee's strength, Charles's kindness, and Tammy's light. You will be forgotten, except as the sideshow act you've made of yourself, a monster who wanted to be worshipped, but who will only ever be pitied. But the legacy of Charles, JJ, Tylee, and Tammy is here in this courtroom, a new type of family built on love. Colby and his family, Tammy's family, the men and women who battled evil, all of us united, because as Charles said, love always wins. Finally, I want to say this. You once claimed that no one could judge you because they weren't there. Today, everyone is here. The court is here, justice is here, and now judgment has arrived. May this sentence be as permanent as the graves you filled.
I think Kay has a letter she's reading.
Okay.
Hi, Judge Boreski. My name is JJ Vallow. I can't be here today to read this letter because I am dead. I was murdered by the defendant, Lori Daybell, or as I used to call her, Mom. See, there are a whole lot of tragedies that have happened to my family, and all of them are the result of my mom's actions. See, my daddy was the first of the dominoes to fall. The day he was murdered, everything good in my world started to crumble. Actually, that's not true. It started before then. It started when she met her co-conspirator, Chad. She abandoned me for 72 days in early 2019. My daddy, Charles, was there for every bit of it. He tried so hard to keep me on my schedule. See, I have autism, and that isn't a bad thing. It just means that I needed extra attention and routines because my brain and my body had more energy than you could ever imagine. To help you understand, it might help to tell you about myself. I went to a really cool school and special school called Lawrence Academy. It's Lawrence Institute for Education. And I loved it. I loved my teachers and my classmates. They understood me so well, and I just thrived there. I was able to go to that school because my dad worked so hard and provided me a special education because I am a special boy. I had a best four-legged friend ever, Bailey, my service dog. Bailey went everywhere with me and kept me calm and safe. I loved Bailey so much, but Lori got rid of Bailey after my dad was murdered, but before she murdered me and Tylee. See, my world crumbled without my dad. Without him to protect me, everything changed. She took me out of my school and told my teachers that my dad committed suicide. She told them on my last day of school. She told me too. I cried all day and just kept saying, my dad's not dead, my dad's not dead, with tears rolling down my face. And I missed my dad. Now I had lost Bailey, my school, and now my dad wasn't just on a business trip anymore. He was dead. Then within the next few days, it got worse. We moved. All of a sudden, I was at Colby's, my big brother's work, telling him goodbye. I couldn't go play with my cousins at Brandon's house anymore. Braxy and Bridie were taken away too. My aunts, uncles, brothers, grandparents, teachers, friends at school, my mama and papa, and Ashlyn, and everything that I knew was gone. All because my dad couldn't protect me anymore. He was my best friend. I love my dad more than I can ever explain. Lori caused the next tragedy in my family too, the next domino to fall. There was one thing I had left, was my big sister Tylee. She murdered her too. She murdered her on September 8th of 2019. Just 59 days after my dad was murdered. Days after she ripped my world apart and took me away from everyone and everything that made me feel safe and secure. Then on September 23rd, 2019, she murdered me. Lori took my dad away. She took away the best man, the protector of me and Tylee. I am dead because she killed him. He never would have let her hurt me, and I know he died protecting me. He took 6 years for me to be able to have a voice, to be here to say what the death of my dad did to me. I am not a domino that fell in her life. I am Joshua Jackson Vallow. I am the son of Charles Vallow. I should be 13 years old now, but I'm forever 7. The impact of my father's death was my murder. And Judge, it is 13 years today that JJ's adoption was finalized, and they moved him immediately right away to Hawaii. And I hope you remember that. I trusted you!
Next is Jerry Vallow.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
My name is Jerry Vallow. Charles was my big brother. And wasn't but a few weeks ago, I was sitting out in my garage with the door open. It was raining a little bit, listening to the fireworks in the distance. And all I could think about was everything I've lost and why. And I kept making excuses not to write a statement. But the truth is, there are no words big enough for the impact this has had, and yet here I am. I am a veteran. I served honorably for this country and everything it's supposed to stand for: freedom, independence, and justice. I knew good men that went to war. Some of them came home badly broken. Some came home and couldn't live with the weight of what they carried and ended their lives. Some didn't come home at all. Those men fought for something real, a country with laws that protect the innocent and punish the guilty. That's why I'm here to speak for Charles, my big brother, one of the innocents, because I still believe in that. And Lori shit on all of it. She doesn't deserve to breathe the air those men fought for. She doesn't deserve to sit and play victim when she is the reason we are all here. When I came home from my service overseas, Charles invited me to live with him. He offered a home and support until I adjusted to civilian life again. That's just who he was: giving, loving, supportive, caring. And he was funny, social, and everyone he met became his friends. You couldn't help but be drawn to him. You loved him. He wasn't just my big brother, he was my best friend. We grew up together on the bayous and rivers in South Louisiana, spending countless days and nights camping, fishing, hunting, exploring, and just being kids. We had so much fun. We learned to survive, trust each other, and become men. I miss him every day. He was a devoted father, a teacher, someone who guided and loved his kids with every fiber of his being. All 5 of his children meant the world to him, and he spent his last months fighting for Tylee and JJ because he was a protector. He was a son, a father, a brother, an uncle, a good man. He didn't deserve to die, and he sure as hell didn't deserve to be vilified by the woman that killed him. I keep asking why. Why? Is it about $1 million? He wasn't just a dollar sign to fund Lori's sick game of make-believe. She tried to cash in on his life, and when that didn't work, She brutally murdered her kids for money, and she tried to kill Brandon when he started looking like the next available dollar sign. His murder impacted not only me, but my entire family. She tried to tear us apart, but she couldn't because we're pretty strong, resilient people. It didn't stop with Charles's death. JJ, Tylee, Tammy, all murdered, and Brandon almost lost his life. Innocent lives were stolen, and we all feel the deep pain and loss, and it hurts and will for years to come. Lori is responsible for all of this. This isn't a family tragedy that occurred randomly. It was a deliberate act of evil. This has never been a mission from God. She isn't an instrument in God's hands. She was sleeping with Chad Daybell behind Charles's back while planning his murder. You know what kind of instrument kills a father in cold blood, buries 2 kids in a pet cemetery, and lies through her teeth while doing it? Called a weapon. And God doesn't use weapons against innocence. She wasn't doing God's work. She was selfish, cruel, and calculated. God didn't send her to commit murder. She used his name to justify evil. That's not God's work. That's blasphemy, plain and simple. She used God's name like a weapon, lied in his name, killed in his name, and now she wants to stand in court and she claims she's doing the Lord's work. She's not some misunderstood woman. She's not some grief-stricken mother. She's not a victim of this story. She wrote her own disgusting make-believe story, and she wrote it in blood. She didn't cry for Charles. She didn't mourn JJ or Tylee, no matter what she says. She erased them, and she didn't give a damn about Tammy. So when she sits there and pretends this is some kind of tragic twist of fate, like she didn't like the fuse, remember that. She didn't just kill Charles. She stole him from everyone who loved him, from his boys, from our family, from me. She didn't just break the law. She pissed all over it and tried to claim righteousness. She started this. She caused this. She wasn't caught in some domino effect. She pushed the first one and kept pushing till there was none left standing. She twisted everything, God, family, and loves. And if she thinks she can twist justice too, don't let her. Don't let her twist away from what she did. She murdered my brother, Charles. Give her what she's earned.
Thank you, sir.
Judge, next we have Brandon Boudreaux's family and Brandon who'd like to speak on behalf of their case.
Okay.
I believe we are starting with Teresa and Carlson Boudreaux. It's Brandon's parents.
Thank you. On October 2nd, 2019, due to Lori Daybell's evil actions, our family lost a measure of innocence and security. Lori Daybell's cruel criminal behavior, combined with the inhumane actions of those who conspired with her, nearly killed Brandon. Had they been successful, the world would have lost a remarkable, kind, loyal man. As his parents, we would have lost a remarkable son. His children, our grandchildren, would have lost their stabilizing father. Our children, his siblings, would have lost an amazing brother who helps guide our family through his selfless example. Brandon's genuine love and kindness is evident in his interactions with his family and friends. He truly cares for those around him, and his actions speak louder than words. We thank God every day that evil didn't succeed. As a family, we have mourned with all who have been affected by Lori's inexcusable acts. Lori Daybell and her evil co-conspirators devastated so many families. Her selfishness is responsible for innocent lives lost, taken from this world without any justification whatsoever. She is the author of heartache and sadness. Today, Lori will face the consequences for her part in hurting so many innocent people. The sentence she is given can't undo the damage and pain she has inflicted upon us, but it's important that she be held accountable for her crimes. We would ask the court to keep Lori confined in prison, away from all of us and the rest of society for the rest of her life. As she serves her sentence here on earth, we will continue to stand together and support each other. We will choose to remember those who have gone from us because of her actions with love. As for me and my family, we will continue to heal together. We won't let Lori or her evil acts define how we see the world or our future. We have endured difficult times. During this period of time, we have feared for our physical safety. We've struggled with a myriad of emotions. The stress of being targeted and threatened takes a toll. There isn't a place in our society for Lori or her co-conspirators. Prison is where Lori belongs and where she should stay until she dies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Brock Boudreaux, Brandon's brother.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I want to just say how grateful I am that Alex is a terrible shot and that we get to be here today to talk about my brother who's still living, and he's the only one that was fortunate enough to have that. My name is Brock Boudreaux, and I'm the younger brother of the victim, Brandon Boudreaux. I'm writing on behalf of my wife and myself, and I'm here today to talk about the toll that this heinous crime has taken on our lives, as well as the lives of our family. From the moment I found out my brother was having marital issues, I was there for him trying to help. He was abandoned by his then wife, Melanie, in Utah, with his children at the end of June 2019, and forced to fly back to Arizona. I offered to help him and flew back to Arizona. When we arrived back at his home, we were both surprised to find his wife already home, having driven back to Utah after abandoning them all there. During that night, I helped the children get to bed and allowed my brother and his wife to try and talk and figure things out. Overhearing their conversations, I realized just how deeply involved Lori, Alex, and Chad were in the failure of my brother's marriage. The next morning, I was talking with Brandon, and he told me how happy he was that I was there because Melanie had called her Uncle Alex the night before. And Brandon had mentioned how he was really scared of Alex and that he was capable of killing someone and had tried before. At the time, I thought my brother was being a bit dramatic. But only a week later, I received the news that Alex had done just that, and he murdered Charles. This was the point where we started beginning to fear for our family's safety. A few months later, the thing my brother had feared the most happened. Alex had attempted to take his life on the orders of Lori. In that moment, our lives changed forever. We could no longer trust that we were safe. We always wondered if someone was coming for Brandon, not knowing just how far these people were willing to go. We were robbed of our sense of safety because of this. We all felt that we needed to get video cameras around our houses, obtain firearms to protect ourselves, and always be watching over our shoulders. As hard as it was for us as his family, I could see how hard it was for Brandon. He was forced to go into hiding, trying to keep his children and himself safe. The toll this took on him was immense. My once fun, energetic, optimistic brother was now a nervous, sad, distraught shell of a man. Our once fun phone calls about future life plans had turned into updates about the case that was proceeding. June 2019 was the beginning of so much sadness in our family's lives As the story unfolded and things became more public, our family name, being so unique, started to be recognized and associated with the ongoing trials and investigations. I'm a practicing dentist in the state of Arizona, and now I constantly fear of people Googling my last name. Having things pop up about the case rather than information about me or my practice. I would like to think that this has not affected people deciding whether to come and see me or not, but I'm sure it has. Our lives have now become entangled with a story none of us wanted to be a part of. We are forced to have hard conversations with our young children, trying to explain why someone would want to kill their uncle. This has forced us all to watch as Brandon has had to share custody of his children with a woman we all know was involved in his attempted murder. It has forced us to sit back and watch as our name has been publicly defamed and slandered by that same woman. Somehow, she still walks free, but I hope someday she gets the justice she deserves as well. For now, all we ask is that you recognize the pain and suffering that has come from the actions of all the people involved and give a sentence that is fitting. Thank you.
Next is Desiree Smoot, Brandon's sister.
My name is Desiree Smoot, and I am one of Brandon Boudreaux's older sisters. Sorry. It is extremely hard for me to explain just how much my brother means to me and how much the decision of Lori Daybell and others to conspire to shoot him on October 2nd, 2019 has impacted my life and my family's life. Nothing prepares you to hear your dad tell you that someone tried to shoot and kill your brother and that they missed him by inches. The shock, anger, helplessness, and fear you feel is unimaginable. Our lives were completely changed after that day. I saw my brother in person a few days after the attempted shooting, and I will never forget that moment. I can still see him today. His face was so full of fear and shock. He couldn't comprehend what had happened to him. He feared for his life and for his children. As an older sister, there's nothing you want more than to protect your brother, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't take away his fear and pain. I couldn't fix this. I can still hear my brother's voice as he broke down on the phone. He cried to me, asking how he was supposed to explain this to his children when they were older. How was he supposed to tell them that someone who was supposed to love him tried to take his life? The heartache in his voice broke me. I knew that this was a reality that he was going to have to face at some point. The trauma for him and his kids will never be completely over. The following months after the attempted shooting of Brandon, my husband and I lived in constant worry and fear as we tried to help support Brandon and my nieces and nephews. During this time, my husband was called by my dad and asked to rush over to their house because there were people there that we were really scared of. I remember being terrified for my brother, my nieces and nephews, my parents, and my husband. During that time, we also lived in fear that someone could possibly show up at our house. We had my brother and my nieces and nephews at our house quite often, and we had to be so vigilant in being aware of our surroundings because we didn't know if people were going to show up, people that were trying to hurt my brother. The stress and fear greatly impacted my husband and I as we tried to appear normal for our own kids and for my nieces and nephews because we didn't want them to be worried. Our work lives were impacted as we tried to balance our jobs with the stress and fear we were experiencing. I have never known fear like what we experienced for those few months after the shooting. Eventually, my brother was so scared he decided he needed to take his kids and go into hiding because he didn't feel safe. My mom, my sister, and I decided we would split up the time and each go and support Brandon and help with the kids. I took off a week of work and left my own family to try and offer a little bit of love and safety to my nieces and nephews whose lives have been completely changed because of others' choices. Brandon and I worked hard to try and keep everything normal for his kids while both of us were scared and worried. We didn't want the kids to feel our fear, but we were scared. The amount of stress this balance put on us was extremely hard. We both could feel it. I could see the stress and anxiety on my brother. He was trying so hard to support his kids while he trying to find a way to keep them safe. Family means everything to me, and I am extremely protective of mine. I have felt so angry and helpless because I haven't been able to fix this for my brother and my beautiful nieces and nephews. My heart aches for the realities my nieces and nephews will have to face as they get older and realize what happened to their dad and how all of this impacted their lives and will continue to impact their lives. It is not fair, and I hate it. I have to talk to my own kids about the fact that someone tried to hurt their uncle, someone they love greatly. These are not things any parent wants to have to discuss with their kids. How do you explain this evil act? How do you explain to them that their cousins who they love so much will forever be impacted by this? For the past 6 years, our family has rallied together during this nightmare, and we have become stronger. We have uplifted each other and supported each other. We have prayed for someone to take accountability, to show a little bit of remorse for the pain and heartache they have caused to Brandon, his children, our family, and all the families affected. We have not gotten that. That is really hard for me to accept. I pray every day to be able to forgive people who have caused so much heartache and pain to the people I love. I am grateful for the justice Brandon found in June. I am grateful for the people who worked for that. Today I am asking the court to take into consideration how much these acts have impacted my brother and his kids, how much it impacted all of our family and all the other families. Please help Brandon find a little peace as he strives to put his life back together and keep his family safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Danae Boudreaux, Brandon's other sister.
Hi, my name is Danae Boudreaux, and I'm the youngest sister of Brandon. I've always been thankful for the beautiful family that I was raised in. My parents raised us in a home filled with love, laughter, and a belief in our Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm lucky to have meaningful relationships with all 5 of my older siblings. As they have been married and had kids, I had the opportunity to find more room in my heart for their spouses and children. Some of my favorite humans in the entire world call me Aunt Nay. I share this to help better demonstrate just how hard it was for me to hear that my older brother had been shot at in October of 2019. Being my oldest brother, I've always looked at him as a protector in a safe space. Hearing the evidence that was presented in this case reminded me just how close I came to losing him that day. As terrified as I was to lose my brother, I could not imagine how devastating it would have been to my nieces and nephews had they lost their dad that day. The greatest impact I feared was what would have happened to those children if something had happened to my brother. Over the coming months, that fear and anxiety for his and their safety was a constant in my life. Being one of the few adults he felt safe leaving his kids with, I spent many hours taking care of my nieces and nephews. I purchased plane tickets and used personal days at work to be able to travel and help care for the kids. I was a kindergarten teacher at the time, and I spent time reading with my niece who was in kindergarten that year. I held my brother's kids close and I comforted them during times of uncertainty. I have an unwavering belief in doing anything in my power to protect innocent children. In the aftermath of the attempted murder of my brother, I watched my entire family rally to do just that for my nieces and nephews, protect them. We set aside our own fears and worries to make sure that those 4 children were surrounded with love and security. I forged a special bond with my nieces and nephews, one that I still carry today. Had something happened to my brother that day, this bond would most likely not exist. I've carried fear, anxiety, anger, and sadness in my heart as a result of what happened to my brother. There have been times I've feared for my own safety as I've helped to keep those children safe. Out of respect for my brother and his family, I have stayed silent all these years as we've placed our trust in the justice system to hold all of those responsible accountable for what they did. I cannot begin to imagine what my life would look like today without my older brother and his family. I thank God that while we have been through hell, we didn't have to face that horrific loss. Accountability is essential to human growth. The impact of this act of violence on my personal life, as well as that of my entire extended family, has been significant. Thank you for the opportunity to share the thoughts and feelings that I have carried for so many years.
Thank you.
Next is Jenny Boudreaux, Brandon's wife.
My name is Jenny Boudreaux, and I am Brandon Boudreaux's wife. First and foremost, I want to thank all those that have spent countless hours in bringing justice to not only Brandon, but to Charles, JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. Today, I stand here today as a voice for the pain and lasting trauma caused by the attempted murder of my husband, Brandon Boudreaux, on October 2nd, 2019, a day that none of us will forget. That morning, Brandon was driving near his newly rented home in Gilbert, Arizona, when a bullet fired by Alex Cox under the direction and planning of Lori Vallow Daybell and other co-conspirators missed his head by merely inches, just inches. One moment, one shot, a moment that should have taken his life, but didn't. And yet that near-death experience has forever changed his life and mine. When I met Brandon, I saw a man with one of the biggest hearts I have ever known. But it was a heart that had been bruised deeply and wounded by betrayal from those he trusted most, to be hunted by people who were supposed to love and protect him, his own family, left scars that go far beyond physical danger. It robbed him of a sense of safety. It shattered his ability to fully trust. It forced him to live in fear. For months, Brandon was living in hiding, moving from place to place, always looking over his shoulder. The people who wanted him dead still were out there, and he knew they were not finished. After the horrifying news of the murders of Charles and Tammy, and especially Tylee and JJ, children he loved and he knew, Brandon had countless sleepless nights. The fear became constant. I will never forget the night when Alex and another showed up at his family home searching for his children and Brandon. The fear I heard in Brandon's voice was like nothing I had ever heard. He believed that he and his children could be killed. This was his new reality. These crimes weren't just about money or power or twisted religious beliefs. They were also about destroying families, destroying lives. Lori and her co-conspirators tried to take away a father from his children. This is a man who reads scriptures with them, tucks them to bed at night, plays games with them, supports their dreams, encourages them, and loves them with all of his heart unconditionally. He would do anything for his children. Had that bullet not missed, these beautiful children, now my beloved bonus children, would have grown up without a father's guidance, his protection, and his love. No child should ever be denied that. Brandon was deeply traumatized, and yet he continued to show up for his children, for truth and for justice, even on the first day of our honeymoon, which was meant to be joyful and sacred. I watched my new husband weep in a car after having to identify the remains of a boy he once loved and tried to protect. That boy was JJ, a cousin of Brandon's former wife, the son of the very woman who tried to orchestrate Brandon's murder. That weight, that moment is still and always will be heavy in our lives. He has survivor's guilt. He sometimes wondered why he survived and the others did not. He would say, I would switch places with Charles, with JJ, with Tylee, and even Tammy so that they could live. This is the kind of person Brandon is. He would do anything for the people he loves. Brandon carries emotional scars of attempted murder, betrayal, and loss every day, and yet he remains kind. He remains faithful, and he remains a father that his children are proud of. Today, I am proud to stand beside him as his wife, his best friend, and a witness of his resilience and his courage. The truth has finally come to light, and although it has taken many years to get here, I pray that justice will be served properly. Evil tried to silence Brandon, but it failed. He is still here. He is still standing, and because of that, so are we. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last will be Brandon Boudreaux.
After Brandon speaks, we'll need to give the court reporter a short break, so I'm just letting everyone know.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to read my sister wrote a letter. She couldn't be here. I'm going to read her letter, and I'll...
That's for Donnell?
Yeah, for Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Danielle Hackey. I am the oldest sister to Brandon Boudreaux. 6 years ago, our world was rocked in ways none of us could have predicted. I am not unfamiliar with the criminal justice system. I worked within it for over 10 years, but it had never touched my life personally until it did 6 years ago. I watched as my brother Brandon had his entire life ripped apart with absolutely no warning. I watched him try to pick up the pieces of a life and family he had built and to try to bandage the broken hearts of his children with oh so many questions, while also navigating his own personal sorrow and heartbreak. I held him and cried with him and offered what little advice I could with all the love my big sister heart could give him. Then just a few months later, while I was 7 months pregnant with my third child and returning home from a doctor visit, I had my husband sit me down on the couch and ever so gently let me know that my brother had just been shot at. You see, my dad hadn't called me. He called my husband to tell him so that he could carefully and gently tell me what had happened. My world, as I knew it, was shattered. All of a sudden, I was living in a paranoid, anxiety-filled, fear-driven nightmare. As details emerged and my brother gained more information and knowledge, he reached out to see if he could bring his children to hide at our home for a while. There was no hesitation. We took them all in, but those few weeks were filled with terror. We stayed indoors with the blinds shut and the door securely locked. We did our best to entertain 6 children, ours and his, and keep them happy and as unaware of the situation as possible, while also monitoring our streets for any signs of those responsible for this. I no longer felt safe in my home. Leaving meant constantly checking behind and around me, making sure no one was following or watching us. We were on alert 24/7. Our entire family helped shuffle my incredible brother and his kids around, doing our best to ensure that they felt safe and were being loved and taken care of. This went on for months. Once those responsible were caught, we felt some relief. However, more details continued to merge, and my brother's life continued to get thrown for loops. Our family has come out of this closer, stronger, and more unified. We have held our tongues, never having spoken our truths, so as to allow the judicial system to do what it is designed to do, bring some justice to all of the victims. The big sister and me wanted nothing more than to take care of my little brother and his sweet children. I wanted nothing more than to fix everything and make it right. I obviously couldn't do that. I watched as my brother experienced the most horrible things and do so with grace, love, and humbleness that I don't know I would have had. I am grateful for the example he has been to me. I pray that our family can continue to heal and move on and hold strong to each other as we try to close this chapter. So many lives were impacted by such selfish choices. I am forever grateful that my brother was spared that day. And I know that for me, I will never be able to go back to being blissfully unaware of the horrific choices people can make for the most unimportant and selfish reasons. Thank you for your time, Danielle Hackey. Your Honor, thank you for giving me my time today and for listening to all these people who are my family now and who have gone through this with me. On October 2nd, Lori Daybell, someone I considered family, conspired with others to shoot at me, an act that not only endangered my life, but it threatened to destroy the sacred family unit that I cherish for my children. Had this heinous crime succeeded, my children would have been left to face a lifetime of grief, robbed of the love, stability, and spiritual guidance I provide as their father. The betrayal by someone connected to my family has left me battling overwhelming emotions over the years. I felt fear, paranoia. I lived with constant vigilance, loneliness, regret, sadness, depression, anger, heartache, and embarrassment. All while striving to remain a beacon for my children I didn't want them to see. The word family in Latin was used as a word for servant, familia. How beautiful to think of those who are family as those who we serve or who serve us freely without the thought of reward. I try to live this truth every day, serving my children with selfless dedication, nurturing their dreams, teaching them resilience, and providing a foundation of love. Lori Daybell's actions sought to tear me from the sacred role, leaving my children without the father who serves them with unwavering devotion. Trust is something that is intangible. It can almost, It can almost be measured in interactions with others by the speed and comfort with which we speak. We can see this inside our families. When it's present, it creates beautiful, safe spaces where human beings can grow and feel loved. As a father, I strive to cultivate this trust, fostering a haven where my children feel secure to grow and express themselves. Had I been killed, this trust would have been shattered, leaving my children vulnerable to fear, uncertainty, and struggling to rebuild the safety that they deserve. I believe the family unit is ordained of God, and as such, It can be the most safe and sacred space we have in this life. I was raised in such a unit by parents who created this for me. And my life's greatest desire is that one day my children will look back and say that I created that for them. This divine calling gives me a drive to provide a nurturing and sacred environment for my children, mirroring the love I received. The choices that were made on October 2nd by Lori and others attempted to end my life. They threatened to rob my children of this God-ordained sanctuary, denying them the legacy and safety of love I strive to build. Research underscores devastating impact of losing a father in early childhood. 20 to 30% of bereaved children develop clinical depression or anxiety, grappling with abandonment. It can hinder their ability to form healthy relationships. My children would have faced these scars and many more. Their sense of security would have been destroyed. The violent act orchestrated by Lori would have taken this. Additionally, children who lose a parent experience academic setbacks, social withdrawal. Studies show that such children face socioeconomic challenges as adults, threatening the stable future I work tirelessly to provide. Besides my children, I have extended family for whom this conspiracy's toll I will never truly know. There's no measurement system for our grief, for our stress, for their pain and their trauma. They carry a burden that was no responsibility of their own. They're good people, all of them. But they showed up. They understood what family meant. They postponed work. They postponed life. They postponed fun. They even put out their own children and their own spouses. I had to ask them and their families to keep me safe and put them in jeopardy. I was scared to stay with them for months after they shot at me and kept trying to find me. I was continually pursued when I asked my new wife to marry me. I had to do so, knowing the burden I brought to our marriage. A life filled with unwanted attention, trauma, from a conspiracy I knew nothing about until it was almost too late. This burden will never go away, but we will learn to deal with it. We can never go back. We can't fix these things. There's no way to make right all the injustice and suffering that we've endured. So my greatest hope is that we can protect others from facing it. I hope those who participated can be removed from a place where they can have a chance to hurt anyone ever again in the future. No one deserves to live a life of fear and trauma. I have friends who stood up and put their lives on hold to help me and my children. I don't know how to convey to you the fear they must have felt to just be involved with me or around me. As others conspired and continued to come looking for me. I can't imagine the impact it had on them after the fact or during, and some of them had to distance themselves to keep their family safe. Finally, this overwhelming toll and conspiracy has had so much effect on those who are called upon to uphold our laws, and to those that I employed to try to protect my family. I would include attorneys, law enforcement, juries, yourself, your staff, all the people who have to deal with this. We've spent countless hours and precious resources from our community's taxes, mine and my family's personal finances, striving to prove exactly what happened, and most importantly, to keep children safe. All of this could have gone to more productive and beneficial things to help others, but it had to be diverted because of selfishness and self-centered conspirations. Your Honor, I'm a believer in forgiveness, and I believe it can be relieving for people to let go of the feelings that I've been describing, to give them away to their Savior, so that there's more room for good feelings and things that can come in this life. I try to practice this. I'm not perfect at it, but I have found relief in it. But I do not believe that this means that we can trust those who commit crimes to continue to have freedom that they had before. I choose to forgive Lori for myself so that I can be able to be a better father to those children I described. Be a better husband for my new wife. A better son and brother to these wonderful people who came. And a better neighbor and friend to those people who were there for me when I needed it most. But I have never seen any remorse or acknowledgement from Lori or any of her conspirators. Only denial, shaming, and accusation. I would never feel safe if she has freedom. I will always fear her for what she would try to do, again, to hurt my family. The trauma of this attack has already shaken my children's sense of safety. It's forced me to fight through pain, and it's forced me to work to restore trust for them in this life that we live. Lori's conspiracy was an assault on the essence of familia or selfless love. It's an assault on trust, and it's an assault on the divine sanctity of what a family is and what I grew up in. I would urge you to recognize this harm, this act that was intended to inflict pain upon myself, my family, my children, who deserve to grow up in a sacred, safe space. And I would ask you to protect us. As I let go of those angry feelings and all of those things, I would ask you to protect us, keep us safe, keep these people who deserve it safe. And I just ask that and thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a short recess of about 10 minutes. You may wish to remain in the courtroom in your seats, but if you do need to use the restroom, you might want to do that at this time.
All rise.
Please be seated. Back on the record in CR 2021-001704, CR 2022-001242. The state can continue with its presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time, I would like to address the court. Lori Vallow Daybell, in the jury trial for Charles Vallow, told the jury that the case and murder was about a family tragedy. In her next trial, she told the jury, again in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, that this was a tragedy. And while she's been in custody, she has agreed to speak to the media 4 times. And she has again spouted off that this was a family tragedy. A tragedy is a disastrous event, a calamity, a misfortune. Synonyms for tragedy are accident, catastrophe, disaster, misfortune, or mishap. A family tragedy does not involve premeditation. A family tragedy does not involve the intentional killing of a person. A family tragedy does not involve working with an accomplice to commit first-degree premeditated murder. And a family tragedy does not involve conspiring with others to kill. Lori Vallow Daybell has evoked the words family tragedy, but her actions show her to be a cold-blooded murderer. Even more disturbing than Lori Vallow Daybell's attempts to fashion the murder of her husband, Charles Vallow, and the shooting of her nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux, as a tragedy, is the way she has twisted religion and fashioned it as a justification for her actions. The reality is this defendant is the same as every other murder defendant. The motives we usually see in murder cases, money, sex, are exactly what motivated this defendant for the murder of Charles and the attempted murder of Brandon. Although this defendant denies it, her text messages and her own actions show that these were her motives. Lori Vallow Daybell's motive for helping to try to kill Brandon Boudreaux was to help Melanie, the woman who called Lori Vallow mom and called Chad Daybell dad or daddy. Just like with Charles, Lori and Chad used their twisted religion to claim that Brandon was dark, possessed, and therefore his death would be justified. Brandon's death would have given Melanie money, the same motive as with Charles. The only difference was this money was for Lori's, quote, daughter, Melanie. The court has presided over these 2 trials and has heard all of the evidence. The court has accepted the verdicts from both juries. And this court accepted this defendant's admission of statutory aggravating factors in both cases: the presence of an accomplice, the use of a deadly weapon, and for Charles's trial, the infliction of emotional harm on Charles's family. The court is legally permitted to find any other aggravating factors and to give each of them the appropriate weight or value. Emotional harm is a very strong aggravating factor that exists for both Charles's family and Brandon and his family. But how do you give the appropriate weight or value to the aggravating factor of emotional harm? The defendant admitted it exists, but that doesn't provide this court with the facts to really weigh the harm that this defendant sentenced these families to. So I want to start first with Charles's family and their emotional harm. Charles Vallow has 5 siblings. He has nieces and nephews. He has 2 sons from his first marriage, Cole and Zach. He had JJ and Tylee and Colby, and he had so many friends. You've heard from Charles's sisters and brothers. Charles regularly visited them. He talked with them regularly, and each sibling has suffered extreme harm as a result of this defendant. We didn't hear from Bobby today, one of Charles's brothers. When I first spoke with Bobby, he told me a story of March of 2019. Charles was visiting. Bobby talked to Charles, and Charles told him that Lori was trying to kill him and that she was going to kill him for his insurance money. Bobby told me how Charles was crying as he spoke and how difficult it was for him to talk to him about this. Bobby told me how much he misses Charles and that it felt like someone had cut off an arm or a leg. That's the pain that he suffers to this day. When I spoke with Charles's brother, Jerry, I learned how Jerry looked up to his brother and literally followed him around as a child. How they shared a love of baseball, and Charles, who was a semi-pro, tried to help his brother learn to be a better player. This is a loss that Jerry still feels every day. When I spoke with Charles's sister, Susan, she told me a story about how close her son was to his Uncle Charles, and the reaction that he had when she had to tell him that his Uncle Charles had been killed, how it devastated him. When I first met Kay and her husband, Larry, I could see the exhaustion in their eyes after going through the trials in Idaho. Kay and Charles were exceptionally close, and it was clear to me that Kay would do whatever was needed to ensure that her brother got justice. And she has been here many, many days. But one of the most disturbing parts of this case that gives so much weight to the aggravating factor of emotional harm and shows how callous, how self-centered, how uncaring, and how narcissistic this defendant is the text messages that she sent to Charles Vallow's sons, Zach and Cole, on July 12th, the day after Charles died. She let them know via a text message that their dad was dead. She wrote, quote, "Hi, boys. I have very sad news. Your dad passed away yesterday. I'm working on making arrangements, and I'll keep you informed with what's going on. I'm still not sure how to handle things. Just want you to know that I love you, and so did your dad." One of Charles's sons texted back, "Lori, what happened?" Lori Vallow knew that Alex Cox had shot and killed Charles, but instead of being honest or caring about his sons, she lied and told them, "We are still waiting on the ME report. I'll let you know more when I can." Charles's sons texted again and again, and at one point, one of them indicated, "You can't just tell us Dad died and disappear." On July 15th, one of Charles's sons texted Lori and said, quote, "Okay, Lori, it's been 3 days. You let us know our father passed away over a text message. 3 days and we haven't heard from anyone. The only information we have is the one text from you saying he passed away. You disappeared after that. We need any information you have. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? Where is he now? Are there any funeral plans? We talked to him all the time, and now he's gone. He was our dad, and we loved him very much. We deserve answers." Lori Vallow Daybell never answered their questions about what happened to their dad. Instead, she lied to them and said she was planning to cremate Charles and take all of them to Hawaii to spread his ashes. Instead, this defendant FedExed Charles's ashes to Louisiana and took Chad Daybell to Hawaii. This court has heard from just a handful of the people who loved and cherished Charles. There are more in the courtroom and many more who could not be here. Each one of them will never be complete again. This defendant damaged every one of Charles's family members and friends when she helped orchestrate his murder. This court is in possession of lifetime injunctions for Susan Vallow, Jerry Vallow, and Kay Woodcock. The state asks that you sign those and serve them on the defendant. The state also provided to the defendant hard copies of the restitution requested by Kay Woodcock for travel, food, and housing, all the things she had to do to be here in this court. The total amount of restitution for Kay is $8,949.52. The state asks that you order that restitution. The court also heard from Brandon Boudreaux and his family. Brandon survived his attack, but he suffered for months, fearing he would be killed. Brandon left Arizona to hide from Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, and Melanie Boudreaux-Pulowski. Brandon is the person who tied this case to Charles's murder, and he alerted the police when he saw that Chad Daybell's wife had died, and he knew all of these things were connected. Imagine living in absolute fear that you could be shot and killed at any given time by people who were your family. Knowing a bullet had hit your car just a couple inches above your head. This is the emotional harm that this defendant thrust upon Brandon and his family. The court is in possession of lifetime injunctions for Brandon Boudreaux, and the state asks that you sign it and have it served upon the defendant. Brandon asks to keep restitution open. You will be requesting that later. As I said earlier, the court has to weigh all of the aggravating factors that have been stipulated to by this defendant, all of the aggravating factors laid out in the state's sentencing memorandum, and the aggravating factors expressed to this court by the next of kin and victims against any alleged mitigating factors this defendant might present. There is no doubt that the aggravating factors substantially outweigh any alleged mitigation. The volume and weight of this defendant's actions and the aggravating factors support running each of these defendants' convictions consecutively to the others. Because of all of the aggravation, this defendant's actions, the state requests that this court run Brandon Boudreaux's case consecutively to Charles Vallow's case, and that these two conspiracy to commit first-degree murder convictions from Arizona be run consecutively to the sentences in the defendant's Idaho murder case, CR 22-21-1624. Thank you.
All right. Would the defendant like to address the court or present any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Can I remain sitting?
Go ahead.
Representing myself at these two trials was a constitutional right that I exercised. I could not have done so without my team. Annalena Ramirez, my paralegal, Jeff White, my investigator, and Pamela Hicks and Robert Abernathy, my advisory counsel. I acknowledge their diligence and hard work in helping me exercise that right. They worked tirelessly, and I appreciate them. Representing myself, I have learned much about the law through this process, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have gained. Knowledge is eternal, and it is only love and the knowledge that we acquire in this life that we take with us into the next. I have studied the rules of law, case law, and the like. I was amazed and enlightened as my understandings were completely changed from before I started this process. Before this long court journey, I only had basic understanding of the judicial process. I was of the understanding that both parties would be able to get up at a trial and each tell their side of the story, but I soon learned that the rules of law do not allow that.
Actually, they do.
The process is much more complex than that. It is not designed for that, although the Constitution of the United States was designed for that. The rules of law negate most of that. As a defendant, I was precluded from calling several witnesses. Other witnesses for the defense were precluded from testifying things that they did witness. As a defendant, I was precluded from asking law enforcement specific questions. I was also precluded from admitting documents that the state turned over to the defense as discovery. The founding fathers of this country did not intend for the rules and laws of trial that have been implemented into this justice system to make it impossible for the accused to defend themselves. Their objective was quite the opposite. They advocated for a fair and impartial and speedy trial. It was never their intention for people to be sitting in jail for years and years waiting to be tried while the state continues to try to gather new evidence against them. This is what our unjustice system has become. Men and women sitting in jail for years and waiting to be heard. The constitutional right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness thwarted. My case is not unique. There are many here in Maricopa County that have been in jail almost 10 years waiting to be tried. The conditions of this jail are not for long-term confinement. You do not have access to direct medical care. You do not have access to proper nutrition. You do not have access to sunlight. You do not have access to decent dental care. In fact, when you have been at Maricopa County Jail for 1 year, they come to your door and offer you a vitamin D supplement because you have not been in the sun in a year. Imagine this for years. It is inhumane. The state of Arizona, according to the laws, since I am a prisoner from another state, only had 90 days in which to give me 2 speedy trials. That's 3 months. I arrived here at MCSO on November 30th, 2023. That is over a year and a half, 20 months specifically. That is over 6 times the amount of time it should have taken for me to have these 2 trials. But Arizona leaves this law up to the judge's discretion, and the judge has the power to extend your trial at his will. Even though the 6th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States proclaims otherwise. 98% of all cases in Maricopa County end in plea deals where the accused plead guilty, and I'll tell you why. It's so miserable in that jail that they plead guilty so they can go to the prison and have decent food, decent sunlight, and a chance to live. 2% of all cases in Maricopa County that actually do go to trial, of all the cases that actually do go to trial, only 0.2 end in acquittal. That is 1 out of 1,200 people who go to trial go home.
That's actually not the correct stat.
Is that a system designed to convict you? The rules of law governing trial assure that. As you witnessed in my 2 cases, the judge supports the state to achieve this outcome. So here we are, the state of Arizona has accomplished its intention. 1, to extradite me from Idaho. 2, to convict me. And 3, to add to my ledger of lifetimes. The state used countless taxpayers' money to transport me, house me, millions of dollars to wrongly convict me on 2 charges that they made sure judicially that I could not defend myself against. I know Political aspirations, raises, and job promotions were at stake. So congratulations. I was convicted in the media long before I went to trial. We all know that there was no way for me to come to Arizona and get a fair, impartial, or speedy trial. And now that fact has been proven. The state of Arizona brought me here when I was already serving 5 life sentences. Now I will serve 7 life sentences. Will that be enough? Will that be enough? I want everyone to know that I mourn with all of you. I am sorry for your pain. Losing those close to you is painful, and I acknowledge all of the pain, and I do empathize. I feel it too. If I was accountable for these crimes, I would acknowledge it, and I would let you know how sorry I was. But I have witnessed for myself what it is like to leave this mortal existence and return home when I temporarily died in the hospital giving birth to my daughter, Tylee. When our spirit leaves our body and we return to the pure energy state in the spirit world, we immediately no longer feel hate, anger, envy, or resentment. I promise you. We come to earth to experience these emotions, but these emotions are immediately replaced by a blissful, heightened sense of peace, love, joy, and well-being. The moment our spirit leaves our body, we feel more alive than we ever did on earth. And we have deep empathy for those we have left behind. We do not want our loved ones to grieve or be sad. We know that they will because that's a mortal experience, but they come to comfort us. We immediately know the minute you leave your body, you are aware of who you are, why you came to earth, and that we will all be together again soon, and that this separation is only temporary. All of the cares and pressures and problems immediately melt away. And after comforting our loved ones, we move on with our eternal life, continuing to pursue knowledge and wisdom and understanding in eternal progression. Heaven is a very busy and happy place where everyone is engaged in projects that they love to do. That includes Joshua, that includes Tylee, that includes Tammy, that includes Charles. No one there, none of these people are seeking revenge or justice. So although we miss our loved ones, and I do too, I assure you that they are busy and happy and peaceful. I have felt the kind of contentment that they feel now, and I try to duplicate that here. So whether I'm giving 5 life sentences or 7 life sentences, I will continue to try to uplift and help and strengthen those around me. It does not matter where you serve on earth as long as you do it with love. It doesn't matter if I'm given 7 lifetimes or the death penalty like my husband. What things look impossible to man are easy for Jesus. Jesus tells us in the Bible not to judge, but this whole entire justice system is just that. So I want you to watch, because God will show the world great miracles. I will continue to love everyone I come in contact with, and I will turn this battle over to God. If this is God's battle, then the math doesn't matter. 7 lifetimes or the death penalty doesn't matter. God's miracles will abound. When a soldier goes off to war, he is a soldier. When a soldier comes back from war, he is a warrior. And Jesus is in the prisons. He is turning his soldiers into warriors. For the prisoners shall go free. Sometimes victory doesn't look like victory until it's finished. Prisoners who have been told that they will never go free will be free. And I want you to expect miracles, and I want you to watch for them, because you will see. We fear not what man can do, because God's warriors surround us. When the battle is relentless and this one has been for over 6 years, remember, God is building his army of warriors in the prison system. He is turning Sauls into Pauls. When Jesus is sending his servants into the prisons to prepare his warrior team, we will be there only until this purpose is complete, and then the warriors will walk free. We are redeemed by Jesus Christ, so we are free right now, but his chains will break. Prison walls will fall. The power and majesty of God will be revealed. When Jesus is ready, he will call his warriors from the prisons, and we will walk free, and we will serve him. I will quote Moroni, the great prophet, from Moroni 8:16, and he says, "Behold, I speak with boldness, having authority from God. I fear not what man can do, for perfect love casteth out all fear." And in Ether, Moroni says, "And now, if I have no authority for these things, judge ye. For ye shall know that I have authority when ye shall see me, and we shall stand before God at the last day."
Do you have anything else?
No.
In this day and age where truth seems to matter little to our talking heads on the news and to our politicians, I'm proud that this trial court, and through our jury trials, we draw on the collective wisdom of jurors to determine the truth. As I said in my jury instructions to the jury, it is their job to determine the truth. The defendant spent several minutes talking about statistics and being prevented from presenting her side, and that is not the truth. Maricopa County is a court of innovation. We virtually screened hundreds of jurors, and we kicked off jurors from service that had ever even heard of Lori Vallow. So when she says that she couldn't get a fair trial in Maricopa County, that is not the truth. Your cases involved 24 separate jurors who deliberated and reached verdicts on these two cases. They represent a broad cross-section of society, which means these two verdicts represent the decisions of our community, not the view of a single person, not the view of a single prosecutor, and not the view of a judge. The collective decision-making of juries helps to reduce individual biases and errors in judgment. 12 jurors in the first case unanimously agreed that proof beyond a reasonable doubt established you conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And 12 separate jurors in the second case, again with no prior knowledge of you whatsoever, no knowledge of your notoriety, unanimously agreed you conspired to have Brandon Boudreaux killed. Many people have asked why the state bothered to extradite you and bring you to Arizona, given the sentences that you received in Idaho. Trials are not just about seeking accountability or punishment from those who have committed crimes, but to give the victims of crimes justice and acknowledgement of the impact of being a victim. Justice demands not only recognition of the pain inflicted, but a firm response that upholds the dignity of every victim harmed by the actions of someone who has shown blatant disregard for humanity. You've left a wake of destruction stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. And you have not victimized just a single victim, but many. You've shattered lives, you've undermined trust, you've sowed fear in the hearts of many. I can't imagine what Brandon and his family went through for those months, hiding, Charles's family wondering who's next. Is someone coming for them? Jenny said a lot of the things I was already going to say to you, Brandon. I'll just touch on a couple of them. I had wondered during the trial whether you suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. I also remember looking at you in the back of the courtroom in trial, and just, you have this look about you of a wounded individual. I hope you can heal someday. To Charles's family, I just wanted to share with you that I'm sorry for your loss. Charles seemed like a great all-around guy. One of the exhibits that was put up during the first trial, I noticed something. He and I share the same birthday. So I'll remember him on my birthday. I have seen many, many cases in my career where someone faces a long prison sentence for what amounted to one split-second bad decision. You are not that person. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if Alex died as a result of the extraordinary burdens that you placed upon him. No one will ever know. You preyed on the vulnerability of those around you, JJ, Tylee, Alex, Melanie, others. And today I heard about Colby. You specialized in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. You just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison. Eventually, the camera that you seek out so much, the media requests, will lessen over time and you'll fade into obscurity. The state has requested that I find additional aggravation. The court does find that in CR 2021-001704, the offense was committed in the expectation that you would receive pecuniary gain. In the CR 2022-001242 case, the court finds the emotional harm suffered by Brandon and his family to be immeasurable. The sentences on those aggravating factors alone will be justified. The state also asked to find an aggravating factor of a prior felony conviction within 10 years of this offense. However, I'm hesitant to do that just because of the way that statute reads, that the offense had to be committed before the date of the offense on these two crimes, which it wasn't. So the court will decline to find that aggravating factor. However, as I said, the substantial amount of harm to the victims and the victim's family, emotional, financial, and otherwise, are immeasurable and justifies consecutive sentences. Ms. Vallow, what's your position on Ms. Woodcock's restitution request of $8,949.52?
I just received it from my advisory council, and I'd like to get a chance to look at it. So I know that the restitution from Brandon hasn't been turned in yet, so we'll look at that and I can discuss it with my advisory council.
Would you want to waive your appearance for a restitution hearing in the future and have your counsel handle that?
I don't see why I couldn't appear by Zoom.
I think my request would be just to leave, not waive her appearance at this time, but if there ends up being some restitution hearing, I can reach out to her and decide if she wants to be here for that.
I'm not going to have her extradited from Idaho for a restitution hearing if she wants to appear, so that's my issue here. She may be able to appear virtually, I don't know.
Because at this time, we don't have the restitution from Mr. Boudreaux, so.
All right. I'm going to set a status conference regarding restitution as to Kay Woodcock. We'll set that in a few moments. If you agree to it prior to that date, we'll vacate it. If not, we'll have to talk about setting a restitution hearing. The court will also, at the request of Brandon Boudreaux, issue a lifetime injunction that prevents you from having any form of contact whatsoever with him for the rest of your life. The court will also issue an injunction on behalf of Susan Vallow, Kay Woodcock, and Jerry Vallow that likewise prohibits you from having any form of contact with them for the rest of your life. You'll be served with those injunctions later today. In each case, it's ordered that you pay a $9 victim compensation fund assessment, a $20 probation assessment, a $2 victims' rights enforcement assessment, and a $13 criminal penalty assessment. Although it's largely symbolic, the court's going to impose the maximum fine allowable for each case. It's ordered that you pay a $150,000 fine plus a 78% surcharge on each case. Those total fines on each case is $267,000. I know the law says that you can't financially benefit off your crimes, but in the event that somehow you did, those restitution amounts or those fine amounts are out there that can be paid. As to count 1 in CR 2021-001704, the court orders you to be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. This sentence would run consecutively to the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho in Fremont County, case number CR 22-21-1624. As to count 1 in CR 2022-001-242-001, it's ordered that you be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. That sentence also, due to the number of victims you've created in the two cases, the immeasurable harm you've inflicted on many, it's ordered that that run consecutive to CR 2021-001-704. Because these sentences are consecutive to one another and consecutive to the Idaho case in which you are currently serving a sentence, you're giving 0 days credit for time served. You have the right to appeal from the orders of the court and to have a lawyer represent you. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. If instead you want to represent yourself in your appeal, you must file a written waiver no later than 30 days after the filing of your notice of appeal. If you cannot afford copies of the necessary records and transcripts, they would be provided for you at no cost. If you want to appeal, you must file a notice of appeal within 20 days of today, or you lose that right. If you want to petition for post-conviction of relief, you must file a notice within 90 days from today, or within 30 days after the appellate court issues a mandate affirming the judgment and sentence in your direct appeal, whichever is later, or you would lose that right as well. It's ordered remanding you to the Custody Department of Corrections effective today to carry out those sentences. We're at recess.
do that. Let's go. Everyone out now.